The 8,500th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is supporting the Non-proliferation Treaty ahead of the 2020 review conference. The agenda is adopted. I wish to warmly welcome the ministers and other distinguished representatives present in the Security Council chamber. Your presence today underscores the importance of the subject matter under discussion. In accordance with Rule 39 of the Council Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the following briefers to participate in this meeting. Ms. Izumi Nakamitsu, High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, and Mr. Yukiya Amano, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency. It is so decided. The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. I shall now make some remarks in my national capacity. Today's meeting is a timely opportunity to take stock of the achievements made under the NPT and lay the ground for future progress. As we are moving towards the review conference against a challenging security background, the United Nations Security Council can and should make its contribution to a successful outcome in 2020. I would like to highlight that the Security Council compromises not only the 5 nuclear weapon states recognized by the NPT, including all 3 depository states, but also 10 non-nuclear weapon states strongly committed to the goals of the NPT. Some of them are also dedicated members of different nuclear weapons-free zones. This composition underlines the responsibility of the Security Council for the NPT and the relevance of the exchange we are having today. Advancing the goals of the NPT, it is 3 pillars: nuclear disarmament, non-proliferation, and the peaceful uses of nuclear applications. It is at the core of your assignments, and we are grateful for having you here, and we look forward to hearing your presentations. I now give the floor to Ms. Izumi Nakamitsu.
His Excellency Foreign Minister Heiko Maas, President of the Security Council, Director General Yukiya Amano, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I congratulate the German presidency for convening today's briefing. The possible use of nuclear weapons, either intentionally, by accident, or through miscalculation, is one of the greatest threats to international peace and security. The potential consequences of a nuclear war will be global and affect all member states. Therefore, it is entirely appropriate that the Council discuss measures related to preventing such a catastrophic outcome and, in particular, the one instrument that has perhaps played the greatest role in doing so. The Treaty on the Non-proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, or the NPT, has been an enduring feature of the international security landscape for nearly 50 years. The NPT is widely acknowledged as the cornerstone of the international non-proliferation regime and the essential foundation of nuclear disarmament. Its role as a pillar of our collective security is likewise an accepted fact. There are 4 key elements to the success of the treaty. First, it contains verifiable non-proliferation obligations in the form of safeguards on peaceful nuclear activities. Second, it is the only treaty that contains legally binding commitments to pursue nuclear disarmament. Third, the treaty establishes a strategic balance between three pillars of nuclear disarmament, nuclear non-proliferation, and access to the peaceful uses of nuclear energy in ways that seek to maximize their benefits for all states parties. Fourth, its near universality provides a clear authority and ensures almost global subscription to its normative framework. Throughout its long history, the NPT has provided tangible security benefits, not just for its states parties, but for all states. That President Kennedy's dire prediction that there will be between 10 and 20 nuclear-armed states by the 1970s did not come true can largely be laid at the feet of the NPT. That in 2019, there are only 4 states with nuclear weapon capabilities or suspected capabilities outside the treaty remains one of the greatest success stories of multilateral diplomacy. We can all agree that the spread of nuclear weapons to greater numbers of states equates to greater possibility of their use. That this has not happened is because of the value states parties continue to place in their membership of the NPT and the non-proliferation benefits it provides. We must today reconfirm that the security benefits that have been derived from the implementation of Article 6, those related to nuclear disarmament, have been equally important. Under the leadership of nuclear weapon states, states parties' efforts to implement Article 6 helped ease global tension, reduce great power conflict, and build confidence among nuclear-armed competitors. Reductions in nuclear arsenals, frameworks to reduce nuclear risk, and efforts to drive forward multilateral nuclear disarmament are all effective measures under Article 6. And all helped to create an environment conducive to broader international cooperation for various global challenges of our time, from peace and security to development and climate change. The 2 pillars of the NPT, disarmament and non-proliferation, are 2 sides of the same coin. Backward movements on one will result in backward movement on the other. Implementation of commitments made under both strengthens mutual trust and advances the cause of a world free of nuclear weapons. As the Secretary General has stressed, disarmament and non-proliferation are important mechanisms that help make the world safer and more secure. They are measures to help prevent, mitigate, and resolve conflict, and can and should be pursued in tandem with other peacemaking and security processes. Excellencies, the NPT has proven remarkably durable. However, that durability should not be taken for granted. Today, we find ourselves in an international environment defined by competition over cooperation and the acquisition of arms prioritized over the pursuit of diplomacy. The disarmament success of the post-Cold War era has come to a halt. In its place, there is dangerous rhetoric about the utility of nuclear weapons and an increased reliance on these weapons in security doctrines. Expensive modernization programs that will make nuclear weapons faster, stealthier, and more accurate have effectively announced the arrival of a qualitative nuclear arms race. Rapid technological developments will begin to impact our international security environment in many different ways, including potentially lowering barriers to the acquisition of nuclear weapons. Last but not least, regional conflicts might heighten proliferation drivers. The disarmament and arms control framework upon which the gains of the post-Cold War era were made is eroding, but we have nothing else yet with which to replace it. As a result, the prospect of the use of nuclear weapons is higher than it has been in generations. Together, these developments are placing the NPT under increasing stress and are exacerbating the fault lines that have been clearly evident between states parties for some time now. In this context, the 2020 Review Conference will be a defining moment. I do not believe that the failure to achieve consensus in 2020 necessarily signals the demise of the treaty. But it will set a poor precedent, and it will further highlight divisions between states parties. It will raise questions about willingness of states to seek collective security for all, rather than narrow, short-term, and eventually unsustainable security benefits for individual states. I believe we should avoid this situation. The 2020, the 50th anniversary of the NPT's entry into force, and the 25th anniversary of its indefinite extension, presents a golden opportunity to make the practical gains that will ensure the treaty's continued viability. A strong, political level reaffirmation by all to the treaty will be important. In the short time remaining between now and 2020, I hope states parties will consider four things. First, the need for demonstrated implementation by all states parties of commitments made during previous review cycles. Past commitments cannot be arbitrarily abrogated, or else they become no more valuable than the paper on which they are written. The failure of implementation undermines potential future gains across all three of the treaty's pillars. Second, the need for genuine dialogue about our current predicaments in international security and how the NPT can be a vehicle to reduce nuclear risk and enhance stability in ways that also take concrete steps toward nuclear disarmament. The third, the need to ensure the strategic balance between the pillars. The NPT is often described as a grand bargain. I see it more as a series of bargains, or rather commitments, made. It is important to recognize that they are all mutually reinforcing. Fourth, the need for creative thinking about what a successful outcome looks like in 2020. Since 1995, review conferences have produced decisions, action plans, practical steps and measures to improve the effectiveness of the review process itself. In 2020, states parties need to consider what possible outcome can both ensure success and drive forward implementation of the treaty. Excellencies, the security benefits provided by the NPT have been manifest in times of relative stability. They should be even more so in an era of international turbulence. The NPT should be a mechanism through which to help create a safer and more secure world. It should be a basis on which to build trust and confidence, to address emerging threats and challenges, and to lay the ground for future gains in the pursuit of our collective goal of a world free of nuclear weapons. Whatever a new arms control and disarmament approaches in the 21st century might look like, one thing is clear: the NPT will still be at the center of our collective security mechanism. It will have to stay fit for purpose. I remain convinced that the 2020 review conference is an opportunity to make headway on all of these goals and to make sure this linchpin of international security remains fit for purpose through the next 25 or even 50 years. I thank you very much.
Ms. Nakamitsu, I thank you for this briefing, and now I give the floor to Mr. Yukiya Amano.
Mr. President, Excellencies, distinguished representatives, let me begin by thanking you for taking the initiative to host this important meeting on strengthening the Treaty on the Non-proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. As you know, the last NPT review conference in 2015 did not reach consensus on a final document. The previous final document in 2010 recognized that, I quote, IAEA safeguards are a fundamental component of the nuclear non-proliferation regime, play an indispensable role in the implementation of the treaty, and help to create an environment conducive to nuclear cooperation, end of quote. It also underlined the role of the agency in assisting developing countries in the peaceful use of nuclear energy. With our Atoms for Peace and Development mandate, the IAEA has supported the United Nations in all NPT review conferences. I believe our dual role of nuclear verification and assisting with peaceful uses is highly relevant to state parties to the NPT. Mr. President, the IAEA now implements safeguards in 182 countries, 179 of which are NPT member states. Non-nuclear weapons states are required under the NPT to conclude a comprehensive safeguard agreement with the IAEA. They must declare all nuclear material in peaceful nuclear activities. The safeguards conclusion drawn by the agency, which are based on our independent verification and findings, provide credible assurance to the international community that states are abiding by their safeguards obligations. In 1997, the IAEA Board of Governors approved the Model Additional Protocol, generally known as the AP. This is a powerful verification tool that gives the agency broader access to information about all parts of our state's nuclear fuel cycle. It also gives our inspectors greater access to sites and locations, in some cases with as little as 2 hours' notice. When I became the IAEA Director General in 2009, only 94 countries were implementing the AP. Today, 134 countries have brought AP into force. This is very encouraging. However, the combination of a comprehensive safeguards agreement and the AP needs to become universal. I encourage state parties to the NPT without comprehensive safeguards agreement are in force to bring such agreement into force without delay. I also ask all countries that have not yet done so to bring into force and implement additional protocol. Mr. President, the steady increase in the amount of nuclear material and number of nuclear facilities under IAEA safeguards and continuing pressure on a regular budget are among the key challenges facing the agency today. Under the IAEA statute, inspections must be financed through the regular budget. For some years, our regular budget has had close to zero increase, and this year it has actually been cut. If our regular budget continues to suffer cuts in the coming years, this could seriously affect our nuclear verification activities. Mr. President, the nuclear programs of Iran and the DPRK remain among the top items of the IAEA's agenda. The IAEA has focused on Iran's nuclear activities since 2002. In December 2015, I presented a final assessment on past and present outstanding issues regarding Iran's nuclear program to the IAEA board. I stated that Iran had conducted a range of activities relevant to the development of nuclear explosive device before the end of 2003. However, these activities did not advance beyond feasibility and scientific studies and the acquisition of certain relevant technical competences and capabilities. I also stated that we had no credible indications of activities in Iran relevant to the development of nuclear explosive device after 2009. Since January 2016, the agency has been verifying and monitoring Iran's implementation of its nuclear-related commitments under the JCPOA. In my regular reports to the board, I have stated that Iran is implementing those commitments. It is essential that Iran continues to fully implement its commitments. Our inspectors have had access to all the sites and locations in Iran which they needed to visit. The agency continues to verify the non-diversion of nuclear material declared by Iran under its NPT Safeguards Agreement. Evaluations regarding the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities in Iran continue. The implementation in Iran of the Comprehensive Safeguard Agreement, additional protocol, and additional transparency measures under the JCPOA amounts to the most robust verification system in existence anywhere in the world. Mr. President, it is almost 10 years since IAEA inspectors were required to leave North Korea. The agency continues to monitor the DPRK's nuclear program and evaluate all safeguards relevant information available to it, including open source information and satellite imagery. In the past 10 years, the DPRK's nuclear program has significantly expanded. The country announced in 2009 that it would start uranium enrichment and build a light water reactor. In 2013, it announced that it would take measures to readjust and restart all the nuclear facilities in Yongbyon. Since then, the agency has observed indications of the operation of the 5-megawatt reactor and reprocessing plant, the extension of the building housing the reported centrifuge enrichment facility, and the construction of the light water reactor. Since 2009, the DPRK has announced on 5 separate occasions that it had conducted a nuclear test in addition to the one announced in 2006. Over the last year, activities at some facilities continued or developed further, while some other facilities appeared not to be operating. I report regularly on these activities to our board. However, without access, the agency cannot confirm the nature and purpose of these activities. The IAEA closely follows international developments on the DPRK nuclear issue. We hope that these processes will lead to an agreement and to the implementation of concrete denuclearization measures. The agency does not have a role in political negotiations among countries concerned. However, it is very important that any agreement on denuclearization is accompanied by an effective and sustainable verification mechanism. The IAEA, with its long experience and well-established practices, is the only international organization that can verify and monitor denuclearization in an impartial, independent, and objective manner. This would help to make the implementation of any agreement sustainable. It would also contribute to the denuclearization of the DPRK in a complete, verifiable, and irreversible manner as required by numerous resolutions of the Security Council. Since 2017, the agency has intensified its efforts to monitor the DPRK nuclear program and enhanced its readiness to undertake verification and monitoring activities in the DPRK if a political agreement is reached among countries concerned. Subject to the approval of our Board of Governors, we could respond within weeks to any request to send inspectors back to the DPRK. Mr. President, let me note briefly that the IAEA makes an important contribution to the establishment of a world free of nuclear weapons in a number of ways. We assist states in creating nuclear weapon-free zones, which already cover vast regions of the world. In 2012, for example, the agency provided background documentation to the facilitator for the United Nations Conference on the establishment of a Middle East zone free of nuclear weapons and all other weapons of mass destruction. It described the work undertaken by the IAEA and the experience gained concerning modalities for a zone free of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. If requested by member states, the IAEA can play a role in nuclear disarmament by sharing its experience in the implementation of verification. Mr. President, the IAEA Technical Cooperation Program is the main vehicle for the transfer of nuclear technology based on the agency's statute and on request from member states. While the focus of our technical cooperation work is on developing countries, we provide assistance to all IAEA member states. The agency helps to improve the health and prosperity of millions of people by making nuclear science and technology available in healthcare, food and agriculture, industry, and many other areas. An extensive modernization of our nuclear applications laboratories in Cybersdorf, near Vienna, is nearly complete, thanks to the generous contribution from many member states. This will enable us to deliver improved services to member states to make food safer, improve control of harmful insect pests, and maximize the benefit of new radiation technology for cancer treatment, to name just a few examples. Helping countries to achieve the sustainable development goals using relevant nuclear technology is an important part of our work. In fact, the IAEA helps countries to use nuclear science and technology to meet at least 9 of the 17 SDGs directly. The IAEA Peaceful Use Initiative, launched in 2010, provides additional funds for our technical cooperation activities. It has helped to raise over 140 million euros for around 300 projects that benefit more than 150 countries. I'm grateful to all the countries that support this valuable initiative. Mr. President, nuclear power can help to address the twin challenges of ensuring reliable energy supplies and curbing greenhouse gas emissions. Today, nuclear power produces 10% of the world's electricity. But when it comes to the low-carbon electricity, nuclear generates almost 1/3 of the global total. The agency's latest annual projections show that nuclear power will continue to play a key role in the world's low-carbon energy mix. However, without significant progress on using the full potential of nuclear power, it will be difficult for the world to secure sufficient energy to achieve sustainable development and to mitigate climate change. Mr. President, utmost attention to safety and security is essential in all uses of nuclear and radiation technologies. Nuclear safety and security are national responsibilities, but the IAEA plays a central role in helping countries to cooperate effectively in these areas. We continue to assess the effectiveness of agency peer review and advisory services in nuclear safety and security so that they can better support member states in the application of IAEA safety standards and security guidance. Our work in nuclear security is one of our high priority issues. By helping to prevent nuclear and other radioactive material from falling into the hands of terrorists or other criminals, the agency makes an additional important contribution to international security. The next IAEA International Conference on Nuclear Security will take place at ministerial level in Vienna in February 2020. Mr. President, by undertaking the activities I have outlined, the IAEA delivers concrete results for the benefit of our 171 member states. Effective and efficient management has been the driving force behind the many achievements in which we take pride. In order to further strengthen our capability, I am working hard to increase the representation of women, especially at senior level. I am confident that state parties to the NPT, most of whom are also IAEA member states, will continue to derive great benefit from the work of the agency. I hope that the 2020 NPT Review Conference will be a success and will make an important contribution to strengthening international peace and security. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your briefing, Mr. Amano. Ms. Nakamitsu and Mr. Amano, you have illustrated how much the NPT has contributed to peace and security